you the headline that we opened with this morning. Transgender women could be barred from same-sex spaces, such as changing rooms and hospital wards, prevented from competing in women's sports. And this is all part of the changes to the Equality Act. What do you make of that, Andrew?
I think it's right and it's long overdue. This is the J.K. Rowling argument that women are women and men are men, and women are currently having to share sometimes changing rooms, for instance, dressing rooms, with women who are identifying with men who are identifying as women, and they have male equipment, they have a penis. It's got to stop. Women should have their own place, men have their place, and this is trying to bring some clarity to it, because when the Equality Act was written back in 2010, there wasn't this huge clamour for change about gender ID. It was just assumed when you talked about a sex, it was male or female. Now it's being interpreted, no, it could be the gender you assume. And I think great sympathy and support for people who want to change their gender, but if you're in the throes, or even if you're thinking of changing your gender, you're still the sex you were born with.
The problem is it clarifies some...
really there.
Well, it clarifies some things, but then also opens up new debates, doesn't it? For instance, if, people just have biological men, biological women, if that's a term that is going to be included in the act, changing rooms, where do those who are trans go? And in every walk of life, new things crop up, and that's why it's been so thorny, hasn't it?
Exactly, and I completely understand the safety argument. We all get that now, and for most people, myself included, and I bet Andrew, this has been a sort of educational process where we've had to educate ourselves about trans people. And I think a lot of the sympathy has now gone out of the argument, because in some ways it's become so political. All the journalists, we're all guilty of it, saying, what is a woman? What is a woman? Banging on about, asking Keir Starmer about penises all the time.
Well, I think it's straightforward.
It's not straightforward.
What's a man? Well, I think
Go on then, what's your definition?
A man has a penis, a woman has a cervix.
And what's a trans woman?
A woman is a woman. A trans woman is a man who's changed into a trans woman.
Yes, so is she then a woman? Because
it depends what the stage they're at, and you've got...
That's the grey, though.
That's the grey.
And it's the unkindness that comes with that.
And the misery.
But don't we think the whole thing, how has this become such a raging political issue when we're referring to such a tiny minority
a dog whistle issue, and I have sympathy, and I do have sympathy when it comes to prisons, and I have sympathy when it comes when it comes to sports. However, this, like so many other issues, has become something that it's the run up to an election. This has become an issue, a real touch point issue for so many people, and that people are going to be going out at election going, Keir Starmer can't define what a woman is, therefore vote Conservative.
Well, you've got to think, why did Nicola Sturgeon, who was an incredibly successful politician in Scotland, why did that career end, really? It's because, recklessly in my view, she decided to change the law in Scotland, which was going to impact on the rest of Britain, so allow people up to the age of 16 to change their gender without referring to a doctor. Often parents wouldn't be told, and there was a huge backlash. And it would have impacted in England, Wales and Northern Ireland too. And the government here, Rishi Sunak's government, I don't think they were doing it to be political. I think they were doing it on sensible grounds, because it was reckless, and she lost her entire career.
Can I just ask you a question? Where should then, in your opinion, a transgender woman, used to be a man, has changed sex, is now a woman, and is legally regarded as a woman, where should she go when she wants to try on a frock in a shop?
I would refer to the body of women who argue about this, who say she should... that women-only spaces should be for women who are born women. That's the J.K. Rowling view. Listen, I'm not a woman.
But Andrew, when you say I should refer to the women, this is Richard's point. Who is speaking up for the trans women?
Yeah.
And I am a woman, and I have a teenage daughter, and I feel passionately about her safety in these areas. I also know the statistics, which we've been told a million times, how many trans women get abused, get mugged, get attacked, commit kill themselves. These numbers are huge, and in this argument, it's just kind of being brushed under the carpet.
It's very difficult, though, isn't it? Because I think, as you say, there's massive sympathy, and it's extraordinary when you look at so much detail going into defining something, and yet so little clarity or protection coming out for those vulnerable people, for people that are trans. It is a strange legal place we're in,
But I don't think there's any harm in the government trying to clarify this because of
as
this
long as
huge
it
debate.
leads to
And it can be a sensible
better
debate.
things for
And
all women,
the Equalities and Human Rights
citizens.
Commission is involved in this, and they are making a lot of these recommendations. They are not Tory dog whistle politicians. They're a cross-party group of people. They're putting forward these recommendations that it appears the government accepts.
Well, we've got two statements here. One from Stonewall, the LGBT charity. They say, rather than finding a way forward on this discussion, this move risks opening yet another chapter in a manufactured culture war that will see little benefit to women, cis or trans alike. And Mermaids, which is a charity that helps support transgender, says it's very distressing to see, particularly young ones, says it's extremely distressing to see the equality watchdog seeking to strip trans people's rights from the Equality Act. By redefining sex, they support removing the rights and protection that trans people have had now for over a decade. There's no supporting evidence to support this stance, no detail of how it would work in practice. It's doubling down on a politicised anti-trans position. So the gap is widened.
But the point is that, I mean, the government's not saying they're doing it. They're saying they're going to look at it. And
they're saying they're going to
in hand in hand with the Equalities and Human Rights Commission.
You can feel the tide of history. So you can feel the tide of history turning, can't you?
And also, how many times has a government conveniently said, "Oh, we're going to commission a report or an investigation, so we can just brush this under the carpet and move on."
Somebody who has had a change of status is